And among the other countries, China has a lot of heavy oil and also produce almost 500,000 barrel heavy oil, 12 to 21 API. Among the other countries, of course, United States of America, it has about 450,000 barrel production, but doesn't have that much heavy oil resources. Then we go to Middle Eastern countries. As you can see, the resources again and production, daily production. Iraq has the highest in heavy oil, but it produces about 65,000 barrel a day, and that is a primary production. The API there is 16 to 22. It's producing almost medium oil or upper, near the 20. Then comes Kuwait. Now, if I am correct, Kuwait has a 60,000 barrel heavy oil primary production. And then we have Saudi Arabia, produces 40,000 barrel a day. And a neutral zone, as I understand, 220, I am wrong here, 220,000 barrel a day of heavy oil. Then we have Iran. And one interesting point is Oman doesn't have that much reserve, doesn't much have resources, but it produces 135,000 barrel of heavy oil per day. The next slide will be in Canada. I will mention the companies that produces the highest in heavy oil. Canadian Natural, ExxonMobil, and Cenovus, which is in Canada, and Husky and Suncor. These are the companies that have the bulk of the heavy oil production in Canada. Now, when it comes to heavy oil exploitation, the challenge is not finding resources, but it is the ability of exploit, recover, and produce and market heavy oil crudes within economic guideline with minimum environmental impact. When you are looking at heavy oil exploitation or development, there are 4 key to unlock cost-effective economic development of heavy oil resources. These keys can be utilized everywhere in the world, and they are first, and this seems very obvious, that it is important to high-grade your heavy oil asset and start with the high-quality heavy oil assets. Although heavy oil is very abundant in several parts of the world, not all heavy oil is created equal. It is very important that a very detailed understanding of the reservoir and the flow characteristics be achieved before development takes place. Otherwise, a lot of capital will be wasted and a lot of heartache will be suffered. Heavy oil is simply not forgiven. In other words, in light oil, if you make a mistake in locating a well drilled, then you could drill another one. But in heavy oil, you have to know which recovery method are you using. So, and it is more difficult to assess the relative quality of each individual heavy oil field. High grading of heavy oil project is not simple matter, it is difficult one. Second point is to get the high grading right and maximize the value of heavy oil. You need strong experience and expertise in heavy oil. And this is very critical. Not only a strong understanding of the reservoir characteristics is required, but also solid understanding of which characteristics are most critical in each reservoir. The third point is understanding of the most effective technology and the ability to effectively implement the most appropriate technology. Another word, recovery methods. What are you going to use? This took time to build in Canada. And today we are at very high level of effectiveness. That being said, we still believe we are in the steep part of the learning curve. The last point is it takes patience to develop heavy oil effectively, as more time is required to understand the reservoir and select the appropriate technology and implement and optimize this technology in the field when compared to most light oil fields. Now, some of the recovery methods are horizontal. Either you could use horizontal or directional drilling, or cold heavy oil production with sand, or you do water flood, or polymer flood, or thermal, which is cyclic steam stimulation, or steam-assisted gravity drainage, SAGD. I'll be describing the polymer in detail, a little bit more detail, and also thermal. It is very important to utilize the right recovery technique for each reservoir. Depending on the reservoir and the technique utilized, oil recoveries will vary. If the oil viscosity is relatively low and the solution gas is high, then primary recovery will recover about 5 to 15%. If the reservoir is consolidated, sandstone, then horizontal wells may be utilized to increase the production or the recovery and also cost. If the sand is unconsolidated, then vertical wells are required to handle oil and sand. In some reservoir with low to medium viscosities, water flooding and polymer flooding can yield significant recoveries up to 35%. In reservoir that the viscosity is very high, so high the oil will not flow unless heated with steam. A very high recovery can be achieved at the SAGD process, up to 80%. It is important to note that not all heavy oils recoveries are equal, reservoirs are equal, and it takes considerable experience and expertise to implement the correct technology and optimize that technology over time.